Welcome, everyone. This is Tyson Bannigan, the energy detective, the illuminator, bringing you and humanity in the light. And I'm the host of the Wellness Show, and I'm the co-sponsor of this exciting series called The Esoteric Principles of Bodybuilding. And of course, the one and only host of the show is Batista, Gremaud, master body designer, the one and only. So welcome back to the show. And today the topic is every emotion creates an emotion. So here we go. Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
everybody. Thank you. Hi. Every motion creates an emotion. That's a huge topic. That's something that many of our students ask me about, like very, very frequently. They say, yeah, but how does it work? And how can we really release the emotions with bodybuilding? And it seems like for a lot of people, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I thought for today's episode, it was very appropriate to look at that, see how that works, and also give some practical applications for people so that you can start becoming aware and making small changes in your exercise routines based on some of the things that we're going to talk today. So emotions. We actually are emotional beings, and emotions play a crucial role in how we do things, decisions we make, and it tells our subconscious whether, if something is wrong. So if something is wrong, then we're going to feel it. It's our emotional state that's going to kind of warn us that something is happening. So a lot of times we keep going, like we talked about in the previous episodes. We live in our head, so we intellectualize things and we justify things, and we have to move forward because the show must go on. So we go in our head, and we think that if we don't think about it, or we just keep going, that they're going to go away and everything is going to be well. It doesn't happen that way, because the body is actually the receptor. So the body, the muscles have intelligence and they have memory. So when we suppress emotions, then the body just remembers. That's just what happens. And sometimes we're not aware of that, and we keep going because, like we talked about, we live outside of our bodies and we have so much things to do. Who have time to really think about how do I feel, or how is this affecting us anyways. And so oftentimes we just don't even realize that that's happening until, like, maybe years later, all of a sudden, we start having heart problems or neck problems or knee problems, because those emotions actually get stored into the physical body, into the tissues, the muscles. And by the time we actually have physical symptoms that show up, it could be years afterwards. So does that make sense? Are we on the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Being the energy detective, that's what I'm helping people do, is deal with that emotional backlog, or like you said, and most of us don't realize this, and a lot of this happens between the age of being born, or even in conception, all the way through to age 7, and we hear something, learn something, told something, and it becomes a buried emotion and we don't know about it. So yeah, this is really an important topic, and it all gets locked, like you said, into our neural muscular fibers of our being.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, the emotions can come from our even before birth, in the womb, or even from past lives. Say history repeats itself, right? So we may be carrying things from multiple lifetimes, and we just don't know. We just don't know why things are happening to us. We may think that, we have bad luck or something. I don't know. But so negative emotions are actually like fear, anger, anxiety, grief. They produce neuropeptides, neurochemicals that go into the body, to the brain, and positive emotions also create neuropeptides that go to the brain, but each of them have a different function. So, for example, if you have an emergency, an accident, something happens, a burglary or a car accident, and you need to react really fast to a circumstance, then those neuropeptides such as cortisol, adrenaline, they will release and they will reach, and that's good, right? Because we need to react and we need to take action right away, and those neurochemicals are going to help you to take action right now and to really move on it. But what happens is that's good for that moment, but even if there's a low level of stress or an underlying level of stress that happens over a long period of time, which happens to like probably everybody, right? We live in the world, and we have stress, and things happen, and it's busy. Then when we continuously produce those low amounts of neurochemicals such as cortisol and adrenaline and all this, then over time it starts damaging the nervous system, it starts damaging the body. And just like those emotions that are, it gets trapped in the body, and that works together. The positive neurochemicals like oxytocin and all the good stuff that comes when you feel good, when you have love in your heart and everything, that strengthens you, right? So negative emotions really weaken you, and positive emotions strengthen you. So you can look at the body kind of like a house. Okay, we always hear the body is the temple. So later on, we are actually going to talk about the temple, right? Right now, we're just going to say, okay, let's say it's the house we inhabit, right? So you can look at it like, for example, the front of the house, the front of your body is like the front of your house. So it's like you come in, and this is how the world sees you. It's your social interaction with people, right? So it's kind of like going into a house, and usually people like to have like their living room pretty clean, because it's like our appearance. So that's where the emotions that have to do with social skills get stored, in the front, right? However, the back, it's kind of like the back of your house, your attic. If you have like somebody coming to your house and you got to clean up real fast or whatever, you're going to shove everything in the closet, right, and store it back there, and you deal with it later, just because we want to have a good, we want to look good, right, for people. Yeah. So we store things in the back, and it's the same with the body. So the back of the body stores a lot of things that we don't want to look at, or things that we don't want other people to look at. So we get a lot of these emotions that gets frozen in the structures of the back and the legs. Okay, so then based on the way the brain hemispheres work, the left side of the body connects with the right side of the brain. Okay, so the left side of the body is actually the yin side, the feminine side, the receptive side, the loving side. So emotions that, or injuries or things that happen on the left side of the body could be related with fear of abandonment, or things that have something to do with childhood memory, feeling based, receptive based, while the right side of the body connects to the left side of the brain. And so it's yang. It has to do with day-to-day activities, social things, doing, male energies. So you can think about where the energy gets stored have to do with brain function, but also with social conditioning and and like we said, past lives and what we basically do about it. So am I making sense so far? I don't want to go too far and go off on a tangent, because I have about 11 pages of notes. So there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
and I can go off.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I never really realized about, the difference between the front of the body and the back of the body, and stored emotions and things that we haven't dealt with in the back, which really explains why Stephen really, spends a lot of time helping people strengthen their back. I mean, that's one of those things that, that's really important to him. And I guess, like you said, he has, some people look at Mona Lisa, look at the front. Stephen wants to look at a person's back to see how the muscular structure is, because it's like a book for him. It tells him what emotions are being trapped in the body and what's going on. So
Absolutely.
I never thought of it that way. So thank you for that. That's very, very insightful.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about the back, because the back actually supports the heart. So it's just like, because everything works together. So you're absolutely right. We can't just open the heart and close the back. When we work through our programs, we always work of opening, strengthening, releasing, so that it all works in symmetry. But before we go on more specifically about how we do it and how that works in terms of bodybuilding, since it's the topic, I just want to say a little something about releasing emotions trapped in the body, because it's not a novelty. It's been done for years, and there's many methods out there that actually are known to do that, such as, for example, hands-on healing, or Reiki, or somato emotional release, craniosacral therapy. So this is something that has been kind of documented, and it's been done. So it's not like we came up with it. We didn't come up with it. You know what I mean? It's something that's been done, and it's been proven, and it's been researched. And I became very aware of that. This is what was happening with our programs, is because I'm very sensitive to energy. Like I said, my hobby has always been working with energies, meditation, metaphysical science, the power of the mind, and all these topics. And I noticed that when we started working with people, especially when I became the teacher, when I became the teacher, and I would look at people and observe their fears, or their reactions in the gym, I started to think, what's going on here? This is like weird, kind of. And then I started putting the dots together, and I kind of remembered my own training of how it worked for me. And then I said, that's what's happening. I'm going to share a story with you to illustrate that point. Is at my very first time in a gym with Stephen, I was told to do a leg press with plates, the plates that you slap. Now, when we work with people, and we work with people online, we take it a little bit slower. We have them do selectorized machines, because we want to prevent injuries. We don't want anybody that's not used to working with weights having to carry heavy plates and things like this. But when I started with Stephen, we didn't have our online program. And so I was actually working with him in a gym. So he put me on this leg press, selectorized, and understand that I have pretty strong legs, because I was a dancer, flamenco dancer. So we pound the floor, and, so my legs were pretty strong. But I got on that machine, and the machine comes on an angle like this. So you push up like this with your legs. And I was looking at these plates, and they seemed like humongous, and I started like panicking, And so we do one plate, and I do it, and I'm going, are you sure about this? It's like, and I had terrible backache too. because I had backache for 35 years. I had a car accident in my early 20s. And then he puts 2 plates on. 2 plates is like 200 pounds. I said, "Are you sure about this?" And then he puts 3 plates on. And now I'm going like, yeah, right. and he's feeling all secured and confident that I can do it. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went to do the exercise. And when the weight came down, okay, at that instant, I relived a past life where I died in an earthquake.
Whoa. Amazing.
Amazing. It blew me away. But understand that vision of having died in the earthquake is something that I had recurring nightmares about for a very long time. It was like a fear, that was stored. And I didn't know, I figured, well, because I learned past life regressions and all this, I figured, okay, well, I died in an earthquake once, so now I'm kind of,
you're done.
Yeah, I'm done. But though that fear stayed with me, and I had recurring nightmares. At that moment, I relived that experience, and it was like a pop that happened. I can't explain. And I never had another recurring nightmare about that since.
Wow.
It was profound. So when I started working with people and I looked at their reactions, I remembered this thing about this experience that I had. And that's when I started to really realize the power of the program. And I've spent 8 years researching, and here I'm going to reveal a little bit more in detail about how that works. Let's talk about the heart. Okay, the heart. The heart is what sustains us. Okay, so we have to understand that the heart vibrates at a higher frequency than the brain. Okay, so when we feel love, serenity, acceptance, we're at peace, then it creates those neuropeptides to the brain, but it's going to create coherent, lucid, clear patterns in the brain. Because the brain is going to follow the pathway of the heart. That's the way it works. It's not the other way around, because the heart vibrates at higher frequency. So when you feel anger, frustration, all those feelings in the heart, then it goes up to the brain, but it creates now confusion, incoherent pattern in the brain, confusion and things like this, right? So when we work with the heart, and last week we talked about the heart chakra, so it's connected. Today, I'm not going to talk so much about the chakras. We talked about that last week, but still, it is still connected. So we're still talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So when we work with the heart, for example, what we do is the first thing is that we need to release the emotions. Okay, that's the first thing. So we press on the chest press. That's the first one of the first exercises that we teach in a program after the leg press, because the leg, as we spoke about, the energy comes from the ground up. But there's different ways of doing it. When we teach a chest press, for example, we don't do it on a flat bench. Okay, because when you are on a flat bench, it can provoke feelings of being out of control, fear, especially if you're working with dumbbells and now you have to go all the way back. It can be quite scary, and it can provoke some of those reactions. So
Right.
The first thing that we do is we want the person to feel in control. Okay, because some of the fears in life is fear of abandonment, rejection, noise, failure. So when you go back like this, it can activate a bunch of fears. And so we want the person to be in control. So we're going to do the chest press on an angle. Also, in the beginning, we would favor doing it with dumbbells, not a bar. So you see people doing it with bars. Later on, when the person is more advanced, we can introduce chest pressing with a Smith machine or angulated bench with bar and things like this. But at first, we want to do it with dumbbells, because when you do it with a bar, you see the bar crosses the heart. And we want to. Does that make sense?
Open. Yeah,
exactly.
You want the heart open.
So we want to keep the heart open. So what we notice is a lot of times the person is. We know this all the time. The people and we can tell if the people are living in their head, if they're grounded, pretty much in the beginning of the workout. Like sometimes we have strong women, with kids. Like I give you an example. A woman with 2 kids. One is 5, one is 7. They may weigh 35 pounds, 50 pounds, and you talk to the woman. She says, "Yeah, I carry my kids," and strong, right? You got to be strong. Yet you get in the gym and you put a 10, 15 pounds dumbbell in their hand and they freak out. You know what I mean? They can't. That's that brain muscle connection that has been cut because the people live in their head. So when the person start chest pressing like this, they start releasing these emotions in the chest. But it's not so easy, because in order to really effectively do this, the person has to reach a certain level, a certain weight. So there is a way of working through so that the person can actually reach the weight to actually be able to do that. So now when they start releasing, they start feeling better. Now we're going to introduce a chest fly, again on an angulated press. So see the rhythm, the harmony in this. First you press, you release, then you open. So it works together. And then we might be doing an exercise for the back. We might go into a pullover. So we're always looking to release, open, stretch from every angle. So when you look at, for example, some of the exercises that would have an opposite effect for the heart, you can see, for example, pec decks. You see when there's a machine and you put this part of the arm and then you go like this. You see what that does?
Mm-hmm.
See? It closes. We want to open, stretch. So other thing, if you can think of, like, for example, people that do a lot of planks. You see, they're planks. They're like this, close. Yeah. Or some people that, if you like do a crossover machine with the cables, now you can do it right if you were to push your body forward a little bit like this. You see, moving the body forward and then bringing the arms forward and without touching them or crossing. But people do it like this. See?
Yeah.
So the form and the technique of how the exercise is done can completely change the emotion that exercise is going to have on the body.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never thought of that.
It is fascinating. It's amazing, and yeah. as I was thinking about this, and I kind of know this because I live it, okay? Right. But now that I'm doing this show, I have to put it in writing. I have to formulate it, so it makes, and so I'm starting to, and I go, wow, that is like, wow,
Yeah, it is wow. I mean, opening your heart and learning how to do your heart. I mean, everybody that's working in the energy field really talks about that, and they want to do that. But, to put it in the context of physical exercise and going to the gym and structural readjustment and talking about it that way, it makes so much sense, right? And puts it into, a way in which you can open your heart so it's not so painful, so that you can release the motion doing physical exercise that's, in the right weight and all the rest of that. Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's look at the neck, for example. So many people have neck pain, right? So the neck, what would the neck represent? The neck represent flexibility. We want to be able to see what's back, so we want to be moving. So sometimes when we have neck problems, it could be an indication of being inflexible, stubborn, not being willing to look forward or move forward, or listen to other people's opinions or advice or point of view, let's say, right? So the neck is also the smallest part of the body here, and so that's where the neurochemicals have to pass through to get from the heart to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you do exercises that are going to open up the neck and release the pressure in the neck, then you're going to really free the pathway, but you are also going to release those emotions of stubbornness and inflexibility, because it all works together. So let's look at some exercises that could affect that. Let's say, for example, let's do, for example, a chin-up. Like the people, they were all on a bar like this, and they go like this. So they're like this. You see what happens? Unless they're super strong and super nice and they have good form, and then they can actually, but people just look around. People don't work out like that. They just go like this. So all this is going to overdevelop the trapezius muscles. That's going to push the neck forward and constrict the neck.
Wow, really interesting.
Energy blockage, and
energy cut.
Exactly. So a couple of tips about this is, for example, always be aware of keeping the neck in a neutral position. All right. And also, when you do an exercise, for example, if you're going to do a lat pull down, where you bring the weight down in front or in back, not only leave the neck neutral, but also what people do is they overextend the arm. And you see what happens?
Yeah.
So then they overextend, and then they push down like this. Same thing happens here. So we don't do that. We leave the neck neutral. We bring the weight down an inch. So we activate the actual lat muscles, which is what it's meant for. And from here, now we push down. No pressure on the neck.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I need to learn. I know when I do that, the tendency is almost, conditioned to do that forward, get into this mode of when you're pulling something down behind your back and having to move forward and open your chest and bring it down behind your head is something you got to be aware of. You got to be in your body. You got to move yourself around to get it, because spontaneously you're going to do this. At least that's what I found.
Absolutely, because we are creature of habits. Okay, so and this is why most people, they when they go into fitness, they want to get in shape, and they think, I'm going to start an exercise, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Then most of the time they just work out from the perspective where they stand, where they're at, and whatever their habit is, that's how they're going to do it, and then they're going to do it. It's just going to make it worse. Right.
In other words, they're going to reinforce whatever bad habits they have by putting muscles on top of it.
Exactly. And then good luck, because then it's compounding, right? It's not a compounding physically, but as we see that that every action actually has a reaction, every motion is associated with emotion, then we start really, now we are thinking it's maybe outside the box, but it's powerful.
Yeah, you're packing that emotion in even tighter rather than using the exercise to release the emotion. You're doing actually the opposite. You're pounding it in.
Exactly.
So you don't want to do it.
Exactly. So, and we can go on, and we can look at the back. Last week, we talked a lot about the spine and postural alignment. So I'm not going to go over that again, but the same thing. The back is the support system of your body. So, problems of lack of support or financial insecurities, or we talked about things that maybe we don't want other people to see, or things that we store in the back that we don't want to look at. But the back is the support of the body, it's the spine. So like we talked a little bit earlier, working the back as a whole to support the front, to support the heart, to support the posture so that everything can flow, then exercises that do that, for example, would be the leg press, which is often the first exercise that we teach. We also teach it at a specific angle with the feet at a specific position, because that also makes a difference. If you put your feet up on the board, like let's say on a selectorized leg press, like that's the one you have. If you put the feet up high, which is most of the time where people are going to put their feet, it's going to transfer the energy to the front of the thighs, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work on the grounding of the hips and the back of the legs. It's a different energy. So you're going to be working the top of the legs, and then it's going to put pressure on the knees. And what does that do? That puts more pain signals in the body. And again, the joints, the knees, these are areas in the body that needs to be flexible. And when you compound and irritate joints, then that provokes feelings of inflexibility, of pain, of self-loathing, or whatever. For me, I have knee pain, look, I can't go up and down the stairs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So everything matters. Everything matters. The body is very, very sensitive. Stephen always says, if you lower the temperature in a room from 1 degree, the body has to adjust and adapt. And the body adjusts and adapts to everything. And in strength training, because we are actually dealing with weight and sometimes heavy weight, then it's crucial to have the right angles, the right position. Another thing that people do is they, when they do a leg extension for the legs, where you sit on a machine and your leg goes like this, a lot of times people turn in or they point their toes. We talked about that last time we had our session. So they do the leg extension with the toes pointed, and what that's doing, it's actually going to develop the outside of the leg. But this exercise, we want to carve the inside of the leg and work on releasing the pressure on the knees. You see what I'm saying? Because we want to free the knees. A lot of people have knee problems, emotions with knees is also support system. There's a lot of emotions associated with the knees. So when we do that, and we do that in that way, we start freeing those they're like little cysts in the body, right? Those emotional traps in the body. So that's how we do it. And we have a lot of people that say, oh, I can't do this exercise because I have knee problem. But that's the very exercise that's going to fix the problem.
I'm fascinated because, again, I didn't understand that what you're saying is the joints, whether it's an elbow, whether it's a knee, or whether it's a neck, or there's a shoulder. Those are neutral points. You don't want to stress them. They need to be neutral when you're doing the exercise or moving with fluidity. And the trapped emotions in those joints is what brings excruciating pain and all sorts of disease and disorder. Never thought of it that way. And that's why you want to be so aware of how you're doing your exercise. Are you putting those parts of your body in neutral so you're releasing, not ingraining or building more stress into those areas.
Exactly. So it's a very complex process. And I want to tell you that when we work with people, we don't tell them any of this. We don't tell them any of this, because the last thing we want is to have the person go to the gym and now intellectualizing everything and be more in their head than before, right? And the purpose of this is that these mechanisms, these techniques are embedded in the program, in the formulas, so the person doesn't need to know about it. They just have to go and train, and it's going to happen. Now, if they are a little bit more conscious than not, and they know that everything they do, they can do it in consciousness, and they can release trauma, emotions, they don't need to know all the details.
Well, I have to say, for me, maybe I'm stuck in my brain, but it makes every time we have one of these episodes, that makes my next trip to the gym that much more rewarding, because I understand, oh, that's what I'm doing. Oh, that's what I need to be aware of. Oh, that feels better. It's like a way of self-correcting yourself to be muscle aware of what are you actually doing or trying to do, and it just makes you more aware of why you're doing it, and then you can do it with less effort. So for me, it's very helpful. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm stuck in my brain, but yeah, this is very, very helpful.
Well, I think you are kind of stuck in your brain, but so is everybody else. And this is why it was important for me to do these episodes, because actually I think it is valuable information and people should know about it,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because it can break your fitness routine or make it. I mean, look at how many people cannot sustain this fitness routine for more than 2 weeks because it's uncomfortable, they don't feel good, they don't like it, it doesn't work, and they don't get the results. Then they give up, they say, oh, that's not for me. And then they go on with their life, and then they're getting more out of shape or more outside of their body, then they have more problems, then they are ill, and then they have back surgery, and then they have cancer, and then they wonder what happened. That it's all part of it. So when you can have a little bit of knowledge about this, and this is why I wanted to do it, but I want to tell you that it's good to have the information and you can be aware of it, but you don't want to intellectualize everything either, because the bottom line, and it's what Stephen always says, just go to the gym and train.
Just go do it.
Just go do it. It's like when we started those episodes, I was thinking, oh my God, maybe we could start it in a month, and you said, no, it's just like going to the gym. You just got to do it. And then the information will flow, and I'm creating these episodes as I go along, because in a sense, it's frightening, no? Because it's like, oh, what am I going to talk about? And how is it going to make sense? And who am I? And, but in reality, when you do it, then, and it's meant to be, and you're on your path, on your your God-giving
passion,
passion, then the information comes, But we don't want to be stuck in our head. We want to actually learn to be unstuck in our head, because that's the path to enlightenment, is to get back from our head back into our heart. So we want to actually, it's good to have the information, but it's even better to kind of put the thinking aside and then really try to get back into our heart, into our body. The body is the temple, and the answers are within. So that's one way of being able to reach that. There's one more thing I want to talk about, is autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune disorder, there's so much of it: fibromyalgia, endometriosis, lupus, chronic fatigue. These can result from your feeling, your heart's desire not being in tune with your thinking, with the brain. So when the brain thinks something logic, but the heart feels something different, then there is a disconnection. And those neuropeptides that go into, from the heart to the brain, then they're all confused, and the body turns into itself. It's kind of like self-punishment. The body says, well, what are we doing? And so the body actually has a way of sort of turning into itself, punishing itself, it's confused. And that can create a lot of those autoimmune disorders. And that's something very important to become aware of, because there's a lot of it. And that's why, in a sense, spiritually speaking, we know that people go on our program, a lot of people with autoimmune disorders, with pain, arthritis. Arthritis is another thing. It's kind of self-punishment. It's toxic thinking, that it's like acid in the body that creates those chronic pain. But love is the answer, right? So the love vibration creates the patterns in the brain, and then everything starts flowing. So what better can a person do than taking that half an hour to go take care of their body, take care of their place? That's self-love.
Absolutely.
That's self-love. Okay. And of course, it has all the physical benefits that strength training, which we already know, there's plenty of research. But going deeper into the spirituality of it, you don't have to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a dog to love, or whatever, to experience love. Love is a state of being again. So if there's nobody in your life that you feel that you can love, then start with loving yourself, and give yourself that tool, the gifts of giving yourself the time to take care of your body and your health, and see your life transformed. And basically what we're doing is we are reconnecting the connective tissue of the body into perfect balance so that we can be whole.
Yeah, really good. And I'm to remind you about emotions and the perception of time.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. This is something that I just thought last night. I have to talk about this because, time is relative. And one of the main reason we hear about people not wanting to exercise, or not, they have no time. I have no time. I have to do my business. I have 4 kids. I got to do this. But time is relative. So I want to tell you a little bit of a research that has been done about time to express and that relativity of time. Emotions actually do affect the way we perceive time. Now, Einstein said a man who spends a minute with a pretty girl is going to be like it's 1 second. It's going to go fast like this. But the same man is going to sit on a hot stove for 1 minute. That's going to feel like eternity, So relativity. So there was a research that was done, and they had 2 groups of people, and they were showing positive and negative images. That was the research. So they were establishing the perception of time for the positive images and the negative images. And unanimously, the negative images, the people perceived that they were longer. They took a longer time, that there were more of it. Okay. Then they continued the experiment by giving the people the illusion of being in control of the images. So they told the people that they had the power to click on a button to see more positive images or less negative images if they wanted. But what they didn't know is that the researchers were the ones in control. They were still the one manipulating the images. So with the group that they said that they had control over it, in one group, they actually did what the people thought they were doing. So they wanted less negative images. So they did that, less negative images. But for the other group, they didn't. If the people wanted less negative images, they still gave them negative images.
Right.
So one group felt that they had control, and one group felt like they didn't have control. The result of the research is the one that felt in control, it neutralized that perception of time. There was no more negative images felt like longer time. The ones that didn't feel in control, they were like out of control. The negative images seemed like forever. So when you look at that research and you see what emotions can do to the perception of time, now you also can connect the dots and realize what we've talked about in the other episode: grounding, the nervous system, the chakras, all these things that we talked in the other episodes, and what we're talking about now, emotions. If we can ground our body, if we can release the emotions, if we can be centered and in control, then we can also have more control of our time, and we will be more productive. As a matter of fact, I think it's Lucille Ball. I don't know if it's Lucille Ball or Benjamin Franklin that said that. There's controversy. I researched it online. That said, if you want something done, give it to a busy man to do. Right?
Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, I know for myself that, being an artist, and I haven't done art for a long time, but when I was doing it, I would go and have access to a studio where I would work. And I would skip my meals because I wouldn't even remember about eating. And I would come out of there and have no concept of what time it was at all. In other words, I entered sacred time. I was so productive, so excited to be in the flow that time had absolutely no meaning whatsoever.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, spiritually speaking, there is no time. We know that, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's one of the three illusions, time, space, and separation. We're all one.
Exactly. So in the spirit world, there's only now.
Yeah.
We still are on the planet Earth. We still have to go to work, some of us, and things like that. But when the person says, I have no time, you got to really rethink what you're saying and where your life is at. Because if you have no time, and especially if you have no time for fitness, which is one of the things you need to do to age gracefully, to be whole, to be fit, to express love, spirituality, that's the vehicle.
And to be pain-free.
And to be pain-free. Then, well, what do you mean you have no time? Who else? Earl of Derby says, those who have no time for physical fitness will soon have to find time for illness.
Right.
So that is, so again, what do you want for your life? You want to live in your head and run around like a chicken without a head? And especially if you're a light worker, then even more so, because the expression that we seek to give, the love and the healings and everything, this body is the vehicle by which we can carry that mission.
Absolutely. And for that, we need to be totally grounded. The amount in which we are grounded is equal to the amount that we can give. It doesn't work any other way. Otherwise, we burn our circuits.
Yes.
Well, what an interesting show. It's all about emotions. It's all about
homework.
Homework. Yes. No, we can't leave without homework.
Quickly, because I see we've taken a long time on this show. Okay, last week I recommended and suggested that the people start writing down what they're doing. And if they did that, good, because now you have something to work with. Okay, if you didn't do that, then do it now. Write down what you're doing in the gym and see, which exercises you're doing in which sequence. And then based on the episode and the things that we've talked about today, then what you can do is you can compare some of the exercises that you're doing and see how you're doing them with what technique, and see if it makes sense and if it fits what we're talking about today, and how you could make changes in the form or the execution or maybe the sequence of exercise. Because the exercises that we talked about today, chest pressing, flies, lat pull downs, pullovers, leg press, these are exercises that are very commonly done in the gym by just anybody in the gym that are using machines. Okay, so it's not like I didn't come up with some things that were like, oh my God, out there.
Yeah.
The typical exercises. But now you can see, just check your form. Have somebody take a picture or a video of how you're doing the exercise. And then re-listen to this show and see, are you doing pec decks? Are you know, what are you doing? And how does that flow with your intention of creating love, harmony, releasing, and being free in the body? So that's my suggestion of what to do.
Absolutely. And don't forget, all those joints need to be neutral.
Exactly.
All right. It was a pleasure. As usual, I got to learn lots that I can take back to the gym and apply this coming Wednesday. So until next week, same time, same place. Have the best week ever. And don't forget to go to the gym.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.